Welcome to 1991 Movie Rewind, a podcast where we watch and review every movie released in 1991, from the all-time greatest classics to the critically panned and everything in between. We will rediscover forgotten fan favorites and uncover hidden gems as we explore the depths of direct-to-video. Join us in our celebration of the fun, unique, and diverse films of this highly underrated year. This week, we watched Regarding Henry.
Hi, this is Nikki.
And this is John, and thank you for joining us on 1991 Movie Rewind. In Regarding Henry, Harrison Ford plays high-powered attorney Henry Turner. He's demanding and aggressive and successful at everything he does. One night, while running down to the corner store for cigarettes, he finds himself in the middle of an armed robbery and is shot twice. Although he survives, Henry is left with no memory and little control over his motor functions, and now must relearn how to live. Screenplay by Jeffrey J.J. Abrams, directed by Mike Nichols, and released on July 10th, 1991. Have you seen Regarding Henry before?
Yes, I've seen this movie many times.
Many times?
Yeah, I don't know why, but I watched this movie a lot. It was on cable a lot, and me and my brother would watch this together. Okay. And I don't know why, because it's not like,
it's not like a
kid's movie at all.
No.
We just watched it because we would laugh at things together.
You were making fun of his progress?
Not really making fun of it, I think.
In some of the lines. Yeah,
there are lines in here where we would repeat and think it would be funny.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know why. We just watched it because it was always on. And it was always on during the parts where he's, learning to read or, beginning to walk.
Yeah.
And talk again. And some of the stuff that he says made us laugh.
And I think that's probably intentional. It doesn't seem like it's supposed to be a straight drama. There do seem to be parts where,
there's some, light...
Intentionally...
It's lighthearted.
Yeah, intentionally lighthearted and funny at times. I've never seen this. In fact, I didn't know anything about it going in, really. I knew the title, I knew the cover of the VHS because I used to work at a video store, and so I knew what the cover was, but it's just Harrison Ford and Annette Bening's head, just sort of down,
leaning
against each other and looking down. So I always had the assumption that it was about their kid Henry who had an accident or died or got cancer. You know what I mean? I didn't think it had anything to do with
him.
I didn't think he was Henry. I thought it was it's about your son Henry. That's why I thought it would. That's
we need to talk about Kevin type of thing. Right. They have a troubled child. Or something
there's some sort of trouble. I assumed an illness or whatever. So I didn't know what to expect. So. I don't know if this is better than what I was expecting. So, I guess it was along the same lines of what I was expecting. It's a sappy,
drama, family
good
drama.
Yeah. So it had the same tones as what I assumed, but the daughter that's in this movie is perfectly fine physically, so it wasn't anything to do with the child. It was the man,
the father.
Yeah, the father. So it's just another thing where an asshole learns to not be an asshole, but takes resetting his brain literally to make that happen.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story, I guess, is don't smoke. I don't know.
Yeah.
He gets shot by because
he needs. It was midnight or something, and he's like, I really need my cigarettes.
Yeah.
Before I go to bed, I think.
But at the same time, is the moral of the story don't smoke? Because if he didn't smoke, he would just still be an asshole his whole life. The fact that he was a smoker was what put him in that situation. So I don't know what the moral of the story is. I don't know.
Just don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a dick. But I don't know, the only way to not be a dick is to, have some traumatic incident that changes your brain function.
Right, so. And you have to get shot in the perfect spot of your brain for you to actually live and then start anew.
Exactly. Yeah, so you get shot twice. Once is like basically like in the upper chest, and then one is in the head.
Yeah.
But the bullet doesn't go through. It like is lodged there, and the way they explain it in the movie is he has, I think I wrote down anoxia. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a lack of oxygen to the brain, which causes you to lose memory and motor functions, and he couldn't talk until later in the movie again. So that's basically what they said, is like it caused a heart attack, which cut off the oxygen to his brain, which basically means he's now like a toddler again, or like a first grader in terms of intelligence when it all is said and done. So, I don't know how I feel about all that. I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know, like, whatever. Who cares about the medical side of things? I had a problem with how they displayed the quickness in which he recovered.
Yeah, I want to know. It seemed as if he fully recovered pretty much in like 6 months.
Yeah, they don't really give an actual timeline, but it seems like it's,
reading other things, like any type of traumatic injury like this, it's going to take a couple of years to get your motor functions, like even just learning to walk and then talk.
Yeah.
And just having him go back to work and him remembering cases, that's where it seemed kind of like it was 6 to 8 months, because he gets shot. I think it's Christmas night, because he's talking to his daughter and he's like, okay, you can open a present, I think. Like in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
He's sort of talking to her on the phone, kind of reprimanding her,
Yeah, part of it.
And he's like, yeah, you can open up one present. And then him and his wife went to a party.
Uh-huh.
That's when he comes back and he's like, I need my cigarettes.
Right.
So I'm thinking it's, Christmas time. And then he comes, I don't know, he goes back to work. Maybe it's summer because, his daughter is home from school and she's getting ready to go to this other school.
Yeah, this boarding school thing.
That they signed up for her like a year before to go to.
Right.
So it's got to be summertime. So it's like 6 to 8 months.
Something like that, yeah. And it seems
of
like
a full-on recovery.
Yeah, massive jumps in recovery, too. It's like one day he doesn't know how to talk, and then the next day he's speaking in complete sentences, basically.
Right. But I don't know anything about any of the recovery of, like, getting shot in the head. I don't know, because it seemed as if when he's learning how to read,
yeah,
he reads, like, a sentence, and he's like, now everything. I can read to every single thing.
Now let me review my old case files.
Yeah, because
and he's like understanding
and reading, like he's reading deposition transcripts and knows every word now.
Yeah.
After reading "Are You My Mother," basically.
Yeah, he reads the words "Are you my mother?"
and then he's like, I can automatically read every word in the dictionary.
Yeah. The next scene is like, oh, we were wrong in this case.
Yeah.
We were the bad guys in this case. Yeah, there's a lot of leaps in leaps of faith that the movie asks you to take.
For this movie, that's my main issue, is how he can automatically just his recovery time. He can just automatically get into everything immediately.
Yeah, and I think beyond that, it's that at some point he just kind of actually stops making progress mentally, right? So, like, if the movie is set up in such a way where it's not a full movie about him recovering and learning how to walk and talk again, that's only, like, the first act, right? So then it becomes, is he going to get back to where he was before. Like, is he going to be able to function as an attorney in the future? Is he going to be able to do whatever it is to make a living and have, like, a full recovery? And he doesn't. He learns to read, and he learns to walk by himself, but he still has basically, like, the mental capacity of, like, a 7-year-old. And it never progresses from there. He never, like, fully regains his memory, which is, like, one of the things that they talk about in this thing. And so at some point, like, it's very quick progress, and then, like, the last act of the movie entirely is just him
learning to love his family,
I guess.
Again.
Yeah, but not making any actual progress in terms of his physicality or mental abilities. Yeah, it's just more about, like, can I love my wife? And, oh man, that's a weird thing too.
Right.
That I don't like that scene where she's like, you haven't made love to me since you've been home.
But he's like, yeah, mentally he's like 7 years old, and
that's what made it so awkward.
Well, but it's also awkward because he doesn't remember her really.
Right. I didn't have much of a problem with that. It's more like, this is like,
it's like
this is a child in a man's body, lady. Like, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Don't touch.
Don't force. Like, just be like, because does he even? I know that the one point where he runs off when he comes back home.
Yeah.
We're like going back and forth in this movie, but whatever.
Yeah.
When the first week or day when he comes back home, he goes out on a walk on his own. Mm-hmm. And that's when he walks into a theater and they're showing, like, porn. Yeah,
he stumbles into a porn, not knowing it's porn.
Yeah, he doesn't know. He thinks he's seeing a movie because he's buying, candy bars and whatever. Right. And he got a hot dog beforehand.
Yeah, you see him with hot dog and ice cream and candy and stuff. Yeah, like,
and then he's like, oh, I'm going to go see a movie. But he didn't realize, it's like a pornographic theater.
And he didn't fully understand what he was
but you're sitting there and you're watching him watch the movie, and he's making these faces like, ugh.
Right.
Like, I'm scared and I don't know what's happening or what's going on. And that's when, she's like, you haven't made love to me or had sex with me since you recovered.
Yeah, since you've come
and
home.
He's like, I don't, from what I know about it, I don't want to hurt you type of thing. Cause
no, he's like, I don't think I can do what I saw in that movie.
Oh, okay.
Is what he said. He's like, I saw
movie.
this, and I don't think I can do that.
Uh-huh. And she's like, okay, well, let's try.
Right. Not taking into consideration, like, this guy completely forgot everything about,
like, everything in his life.
Physical love. He doesn't know how it works. Leave it alone. Do not. I don't know. It kept on going in different places.
The moral of this movie?
Yeah, it just kept on going different places than I expected it to, and it just didn't really go anywhere in the long term. So, it went for a walk and it came back, sort of like Henry did. By the way, when he escaped, and he, like, went out the door in the building or whatever, the delivery guy who let him walk past was J.J. Abrams as a cameo. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I know that, but the listeners we can tell.
May not. Yeah, this is one of his first writing credits. Not his very first, but it was one of the first.
It's pre-Felicity.
Pre-Felicity, he had done Taking Care of Business and Forever Young. I think I wrote down. I think that was before. Yeah.
Before J.J. becomes, the JJ that everyone knows now.
Back when he was still Jeffrey. And then he did Armageddon later on, and Alias, and Lost, and Star Wars with Harrison Ford, of course. So,
do you think they talked about regarding Henry
on the set
when they met again for Star Wars?
Why did you let me out of the building? Yeah.
Right. I know, because he's like, hey, like, that guy has delivered. That's their delivery guy, because he knew him by name.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, hey, Henry, I'm gonna...
You forgot his name.
I forgot his last name.
Oh, Turner. Mr. Turner.
Yeah, because he says, oh, hey, Mr. Turner.
Yeah.
And, because Henry doesn't really know these people. He doesn't know anyone that he knew from his past. But he's just trying to be nice. And he's like, oh, hey, hello. Mm-hmm. And he walks on by. And everyone's looking at him. Because even the doorman's just like, hey, Henry. Or hey, Mr. Turner. Everyone says, hey, Mr. Turner.
Right. And they can't, tell him no, necessarily. Even though they probably
They don't say, hey, where are you going? They just all say, hey, Mr. Turner. And he's like, hey, hello, hi.
But they probably
and then he's like,
where he's going.
Yeah.
Because they know his condition.
Yeah.
They know what's going on.
They'd be like, hey, where are you off to, Mr. Turner?
Right.
But
you
the
want
guy,
some help, right?
I think the door, the guy that opens the door says, hey, Mr. Turner. And then Henry goes, I'm going to go for a walk now.
Yeah.
And the doorman's just like, okay, you do that. Yeah. I don't care what you do. Yeah. But, yeah.
So, yeah, I think it does definitely try to be funny at times with scenes like that.
Yeah. A very he has a childlike sense of humor.
Yeah. And, when he's in the library with his daughter and she's trying to study and he's just, flicking paper at her and stuff like that.
Because he's kind of... Yeah, because, a child would kind of do that because they're bored and they don't know what to do. So they just start, messing with you or... playing around.
Yeah, and I think Harrison Ford plays the character pretty well.
Right.
Overall, he's clearly a dick at the beginning. He, lays that on very thick.
Yeah.
Just not really berating people, but just barking out orders nonstop.
Yeah, you see him in the beginning where he's sort of reprimanding his daughter.
Yeah, and speaking Latin to her, using Latin legal phrases at her. And it's
right.
Do you understand how it goes? And then he's says something in Latin, which I wrote down. It's those who are silent are understood to consent. That's...
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to take your silence to mean you agree with me.
Yeah. I think he's trying to portray... Kid. Yeah, I know. I think they're trying to portray this waspy type of... how parents are in the 90s, maybe even now, I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure there's tons of parents that are like that. All I want to know is what Rachel had in her Game Boy, because I saw her
playing the Game Boy.
She had a Game Boy in one of the scenes, and that's my jam right there. Mm-hmm. So I want to know what she was playing.
Yeah, and she's just, a kid, and then, I guess she got reprimanded for spilling juice on the piano.
Right.
So no food allowed out of her room.
Or out of the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
The other thing, when we were talking about the library, is... So that's where the daughter finds out that he doesn't know how to read. Because she's like, read your book.
Yeah, read your book.
And then he just looks at her. That's... Okay, so he goes to this rehab facility, and he's there for how many months, and they don't teach him how to read? That was another question I had.
But didn't they? Wasn't there a scene where, or was it just the shapes and colors?
That one lady was just like, what is this? And then she's repeating words. And then, show me shapes.
Teaching them how to talk, but not read.
She's like, what is these shapes? Show me the squares, show me the triangles, show me the circle. Show me what is green, show me what's yellow.
Yeah.
But they don't teach him how to read, which is, if that's he
knows how to paint.
Yeah. A high-end rehab facility, don't they have to teach you everything? I don't know anything about rehab facilities.
I don't know what's expected and what's not expected. It could just be that they're thinking, oh, well, he's made enough progress. He knows how to talk. You guys can take it from here instead of spending the money on this place because, you're hemorrhaging money with him not working anymore. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I thought that, again, just going back to Harrison Ford, I thought he played those scenes really well where he couldn't be verbal. Just the weird combination of smirks and eyebrow raises and just very subtle facial movements to kind of get his point across while still trying to progress from being almost fully facially paralyzed to having some sort of normal function again. So he did a really good job of playing that and doing that progression. And then also you have Bradley, who's the assistant at the rehab facility, who becomes like his best friend, and played by Bill Nunn, and he was by far my favorite character.
Oh yeah,
in that movie.
I think growing up that he was my favorite character. That was my favorite parts in the movie when I was growing up was, when Bradley teaches him how to sort of speak, because he's not talking, and he's like, okay, he takes him down to the cafeteria, puts some Tabasco and pepper and everything in the eggs to make him speak. To me, I thought that was funny as a kid.
Yeah, it's funny to watch as a movie, but in real life, that's like legitimate torture, probably.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think you should do that as a nurse or a real life physician's assistant or anything. They shouldn't be doing that, like forcing you. But in the when I was younger, I thought that was funny, and I thought him, their relationship together was my favorite part when I was growing up, and still I like their friendship.
But let's quickly go back to the spiked eggs with the hot sauce. Because Henry is like panting and like wanting something, and Bradley's basically like, if you want something, then tell me. You have to tell me whatever you want. If you don't want these eggs, then you gotta tell me what you want, but you have to actually say it. And that's how he gets them to speak. And Harrison Ford's character says, Ritz. And that becomes a running theme in the whole movie.
Ritz crackers.
The Ritz. And he's like, Ritz, I said Ritz.
And that's another thing. It's like, now that I said the word Ritz, now I can say every word. Full sentences.
Yes. Yeah, in the next scene, he's like, completely
speaking of full paragraphs and sentences and stuff.
Yeah.
And he knows how to paint really well.
He knows how to paint really well because he paints Ritz crackers and boxes almost exclusively.
Yeah, he's obsessed with Ritz. And we find out what the Ritz means later on in the movie.
Yes, we understand the double meaning of the word Ritz, yeah. So I wanted to make sure that we covered the origin of Ritz, since I think that will be coming in. But I don't know. We're going to see Bill Nunn in a couple other 1991 movies. He's in a movie called White Lie, and also probably more bigger known movie is New Jack City. He's in that as well, but he got to start with Spike Lee doing School Days, and then also as Radio Raheem in Do the Right Thing, which is, legendary performance. I think this one is a performance where he probably should have at least been considered for nomination for supporting actor. I think like
a Golden Globe.
Yeah, if we're looking at the movies that we've already looked at, get rid of Ben Kingsley and put Bill Nunn in there in the supporting actor character category. Maybe even Harvey Keitel and put Bill Nunn in there instead. That's how much I liked his performance in this.
Yeah.
Just a huge personality, just pure encouragement the entire way, and just
he's just a friendly, likable guy. Joy
to watch the entire time.
That's watching it while growing up. Yeah, I liked those scenes with him.
And I wish he would have come back,
one more time,
a couple times in the movie, because they bring him into the house for a visit, but it happens so late in the movie. It's like, what took so long? I don't know. It just seemed like he could have been like a best friend role that could have been,
because he's like he probably is so friendly with all of his patients that their patients probably all think that he is his best friend too, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I don't, because that's the first person that they meet, these people that are being rehabbed, I suppose.
Yeah. I understand that aspect of it.
So he has patience, and I don't know. But
again, I'm talking in the context of the movie, where he could have been the best friend, lean on and get advice from at several points
call him
in
up
his
every
movie.
once in a while, hey, I need
meet
some
him in
advice.
the park for advice on something. Instead, it just happens at the very
very end when Henry is giving up on life, sort of.
Yeah.
When he starts to find things out about his past.
Real trouble. Which, okay. Why don't we dive into that, I guess?
Okay.
So, Henry's wife, oh gosh, I forgot her name.
Sarah.
Sarah, played by Annette Bening. So, we're in movie number 2 with Annette. And we have one left, guilty by suspicion. So, we'll have 3 with her. Anyway, Sarah had cheated on Henry in the past with one of his co-workers named Bruce. And the way he finds out is he sees these letters in her drawers, and now he knows how to read. And it just happened to be written on the same stupid blue construction paper that he used to write like a get well soon note to Henry.
Right. So this guy
Bruce
only
is
has
an idiot.
Right. Yeah.
Get some normal
The other
paper,
thing is
Bruce.
that he gives him something from Tiffany's.
Does he?
It was a picture frame in a Tiffany's box.
Yeah,
and I was like, why is this guy always going to Tiffany's and buying, I don't know.
Oh, that might have been a clue I missed there too.
Well, because it was a couple of times where he gave, like when Henry comes back to the office and gives Henry a bag, and it's a Tiffany's bag, and then he opens it and it's a picture frame, and Henry's just like, oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah,
like he
thank
doesn't.
you. He doesn't get it.
But then I think later on he sends something else in a Tiffany's bag.
It could be.
I don't know.
I didn't pay attention.
I just noticed Tiffany's. I'm like, what's
I noticed
his,
the blue construction
like, why is he
paper
always
that he's
going to
writing
Tiffany's
notes
to
on.
buy gifts? Like, I don't know if that was like a 90s thing.
Yeah, it could have been like a brand deal with Tiffany's to make the movie happen, even. Who knows?
Because you know
some
how,
weird
like,
little-
like Tiffany's was like the niche thing back then.
Just
where,
to prove
like, if
that
you
you're
went
rich
to,
or something.
yeah, like, oh, you went to Tiffany's, so you obviously can afford anything there, or whatever. You're rich enough to buy anything from Tiffany's.
Exactly. So yeah, that's happening, and that is just a weird way to find out. And then obviously the other part of it is that Henry was also cheating on Sarah back when he was his old self, and meeting his other coworker Linda at the Ritz-Carlton to have an affair. So they were both cheating on each other, and they've both changed since the accident or whatever, and now they're a happy family again at the end. So, double meaning of Ritz. So,
That's the first
that's
word
what-
he remembers was Ritz.
and that's where Henry runs away to after leaving home after discovering
I know.
Sarah's cheating. He goes to the Ritz-Carlton.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, of course he does, yes.
Well, okay. Well, he doesn't know the meaning of Ritz yet.
No.
When he runs to the Ritz-Carlton.
No. But yeah, like maybe subconsciously he does, and that's the whole point.
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
like, It's like, oh, this is my home away from home. I know this place, or I'm like a
Like, I
homemade
recognize
kitchen,
this
and
place, yeah.
you know, I'm just gonna go there from instinct.
Yeah.
And then Linda comes in, and
Yeah, and Linda, that was the other thing. So she knew so he got a room that they usually get.
I don't know if it's that extreme or if she just assumed that he would have gone there and asked at the front desk,
Like, is
hey,
Henry Turner?
Yeah, what room is this person in?
Okay.
It could have been something like that.
That's what I was wondering. There's a lot of open-ended things that I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Now that I'm older.
Yeah.
And
now that you're not focusing on, oh, I remember gray carpet. I want
right. Yeah, I'm not focusing on like the funny one-liners.
Right.
Like, I remember gray carpet.
I want
or
to go
Ritz.
home. Yeah.
Or are you my mother?
Are you my mother?
I'm now focusing on the plot of the movie.
You're right. And you're realizing there wasn't much of a plot to this movie.
But yeah, that's because I was like, how did she know that? Well, I don't know. That's I was like, did he come to the front desk? And since he's been to the Ritz so many times, they're like, oh, Henry or Mr. Turner, do you want your usual room?
Yeah, I mean, that could be too. You never know. Yeah.
And then she knew that room because that's where they used to meet up.
Yeah.
That's what I was, I don't know, wondering. Who's
to say? I don't know. But the important thing is happily ever after?
Yeah. And
mostly? And they have a dog. We forgot, during that walk when he went
during
to go see
walk.
the porno, he comes home with the dog.
Yeah, he's just walking around. So after he watches the porn movie, he gets ice cream.
He gets ice cream and he sees this dog and he brings home a dog.
Dog in a window. And
that the daughter wanted.
Yeah.
We haven't talked a whole lot about the daughter because she's there, but she doesn't have a major role.
I like her as an actress. And
I do too.
She did nothing after this.
This is her only role, from what I could find. So, I don't know how to pronounce her name. It's
Mickey
Camion Allen.
Yeah, but then
credited as Mickey Allen.
Mikki.
Yeah. Yeah, she played Rachel, and that's her only role. But yeah, I mean, she's there to basically act as like an older sister to her father, much older father. Yeah, but just only for key sequences, not really no. Or also just to be the person who made mistakes before and to show how much Henry has changed by saying, oh yeah, we're going to make those same mistakes in present day and it's not a big deal anymore. It's like spilling juice on the table.
Yeah, she's like,
oh, I spill juice all the time, and he knocks his own glass over. So it's like to show his progression in that way. But they show that exact same progression like 30, 40 different times in 40 different ways. Mm-hmm. So it gets a little tiresome. So that's, I mean, I don't know if there's much more to talk about in terms of the plot, to be honest with you.
I mean, at the end, the other thing that I don't know if it bothered me, but, it was just typical, once they're starting to fall in love again with each other, they're walking in the park holding hands and she's like, oh, you never held my hand before and you were never...
You didn't like
into
public displays of
PDA,
affection.
and he's like, well, now I do, and they're kissing. He jumps on a bench and they're kissing, and then their waspy friends are staring at them in disgust, like, ew, people kissing, ugh.
Oh,
like they're just so like I don't know. I guess they're just supposed to play the judgmental.
That's not what the rich do.
Yeah, rich white people friends. I don't know.
Yeah,
and then that's when they invite Henry and Sarah to a housewarming. Well, that was the other thing is, Sarah's quote job. Was she a real estate agent? Because that's what I was.
I don't know if she had a job.
Well, because they show her in an office once.
I don't know.
And she's like, I'm coming home.
Like, oh, we don't have any money because my husband doesn't work. And then they let him go to work, but just as
they give him easy random things.
Well, he's not even doing anything. He's just sitting in an office reviewing his old case files because they don't have anything for him to do because he has the mental capacity of a preteen. It's like he's there just for show and I guess to get money, which is fantastic. Good for them for letting them do that. But I'm pretty Sarah, I guess, was maybe just a socialite at some, during their time. Because they do talk about when they met. Because Henry's like, how did we meet? And then she tells him, you were in law school or something. Right.
And I was working for Harper's Bazaar. She was working for a magazine.
Yeah. They met at some sort of party or whatever.
But then when, Henry is at home back from the rehab facility, she's in an office because they do show her taking phone calls in an office. I just don't know what she was doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Just managing their day-to-day life, perhaps. I don't know.
But I thought she was in real estate because the friend that's judging her later on shows they're at an apartment
that she wanted to buy. But,
the friend.
Yeah, the friend wanted to buy, and there was a
Sarah just happened to
they were tagging
go with her.
Yeah. She was going
because
there was a third person who the friend turned to and said, "Oh, never mind. I don't need a seat again. I'll take it." But and she said that to a third person, not to Sarah.
Okay. Because then, I'm wondering if Sarah found it for her because she's like, "Oh, I love this place," and blah blah blah. She's talking to Sarah as if Sarah found it. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. The main thing is they had a lack of money because Henry wasn't working,
and he was the breadwinner of
Because he was the high-powered attorney. I don't know. I do kind of want to quickly go back to the whole point of him, like, working in the office and, like, why they felt the need to show that at all. Because it kind of went nowhere. Like, he discovers that, yes, they were the bad guy in the case that opened the movie. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, they sure did spend a whole lot of time with him, going over these legal cases and notes and stuff and having conversations about what, give me the files for this person. And then it just, like, it went nowhere. I don't know. I just thought the plot wasn't structured very well. And that they spent way too much time on stuff that I thought there was going to be, like, more intrigue. I thought he was maybe going to learn how to become a lawyer and, like, review these cases, but then, like, switch sides or something.
Okay.
Or something could have happened, with multiple cases, or he could have, like, found things that would have helped other cases that were going on in the firm or whatever, but instead it was just a very long walk around the park just to get to the point of, we were bad, which we already knew that they were bad.
Yeah, because, I don't know, if you're a defense attorney, you kind of have to win, you have to do some things.
So
to win, yeah.
I didn't like that. I also didn't understand the whole point of having that. There was, like, this big party that was being held in his honor. That apparently, like, was scheduled before his accident that they still had to keep, that they still had to do, and so he had to give this speech to everybody.
Was that because he won that one case?
I don't know. Maybe. But
was he just, like, a partner that, I don't know, that was another thing.
It didn't make sense. And, I mean, the speech was fine for, like, the circumstances where he basically just gets up and says, I'm sorry, I don't remember who most of you are, I'm trying my best, thank you. And, it's a sweet moment, but it didn't need to exist because that party didn't need to exist. The whole thing just seemed super forced. I don't know, just a lot of forced stuff in this movie, especially, like, near the end where I thought, the whole cheating scandal stuff was happening, like, it was a bunch of nothing happening, and then the last 10-15 minutes was a bunch of stuff happening, like, oh, you were cheating on me, oh, but I was cheating on you, and, like, calling back lines from earlier in the movie. It just felt like a whole bunch of fluff and quick resolution. Not my favorite. So let's talk about the person who directed this thing. We already talked about J.J. Abrams a little bit. Mm-hmm. The person who directed this thing is Mike Nichols. Mm-hmm. And I want to go into his life a little bit more, but first I want to talk about him as a director, because he is probably most well known for The Graduate. He won the Oscar and the Golden Globe for The Graduate. He's been nominated for several others. So he's nominated for Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Silkwood, Working Girl, which he made with Harrison Ford. He also had a Golden Globe nominee for Closer on top of all of those. He's won an Emmy for directing for Wit and Angels in America. He's won directing Emmys, or he's won directing Tonys, because he's a prolific Broadway director on top of everything else. And he's one of 15 people who has the full EGOT, because he has a Grammy Award for Best Comedy Album for his old Nichols and May comedy duo act from the 50s. So, but in terms of directing, very prolific. Obviously a lot of nominations. It's tough for me to wrap around exactly what makes his movies as effective as they usually are. This is probably one of the lesser effective movies.
Okay.
But I think I've been trying to think about it for the past few days, honestly. So at the very beginning, we have a long sweeping shot of, like, Harrison Ford as the attorney arguing his case, and we come in from the city street and it pans all across the courtroom. If you remember, there's like a big circular shot where you see everybody in the courtroom, and it wraps around the entire room in this very fancy location. And then after that shot, it is very, very conventional in terms of composition for the most part. And so I was thinking back to things like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which I haven't seen in a long time, or Graduate, which I have not seen in a long time. And again, those are ones where I don't really feel them visually. Like The Graduate, there's a couple shots that come to mind most, right? You have
the wedding,
the leg,
yeah, the
right?
leg,
which is iconic.
Yeah.
And then I
the
think
wedding scene.
Yeah, a couple shots in the wedding scene of him like banging on the glass, and also
the end where they're on the bus.
When they're on the bus, and there's nothing incredibly special about that shot on the bus.
Yeah, but
it's the emotions of the characters and the acting, and I think that's really what the key is. The more I think about it, is that he's very much an acting director, but has enough subtleties in the visual side to kind of supplement what's going on with the performances. So we've already talked about like Bill Nunn and Harrison Ford's good performances. We talked about the daughter's performance and everything. So, that's still there. And I think also there's a couple little subtleties in the way things were directed. Like when Harrison's first in the office, he has this massive corner office of his own that overlooks, the Empire State Building.
Yeah. Or like the Chrysler Building.
Oh yeah, Chrysler Building. Yeah, sorry. It's just an incredible view. And then like a couple scenes later, you see his office, and it's a completely different location.
Yeah,
because it's like this little tiny like middle of the road.
I was trying to figure out where they would be located in Manhattan, but I don't know.
Yeah. But they physically moved his office from this big, high-powered thing to, this middle of the hallway thing.
Yeah.
And they don't make special note of it. It's just there. It's just like one of the things that changes in his life that, is expressed, but not overtly. And also like having like one of his Ritz paintings hanging over the office wall, just shifting the camera up enough so you can see that on the wall. That kind of thing, I think, is what makes Nichols effective. But I think just the story just wasn't fully there either to make it work. So I don't know.
Yeah, for this movie, this is like the way it ends, Henry's like, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore, or I just don't want to be a bad guy lawyer. Because in my mind, I was like, what's he going to do now? Like, is he going to be a plaintiff's lawyer or what?
Yeah. He said he didn't want to be a lawyer.
He didn't want to be a lawyer, but what do you want to do now? But
they don't explain it. They don't say.
That's when...
Maybe it doesn't have to.
Like, I kind of wish I knew... I know that, they're all a happy family now. They're in a new house. They move out of their really nice Fifth Avenue apartment that's like right across the street from the Met. Mm-hmm. So they move to a house, but I'm assuming that's, in the suburbs, like maybe way out in New York or maybe Connecticut or something. Yeah. And then they go pick up, Sarah and Henry pick up their daughter Rachel from the boarding school because she's kind of miserable too, and then the end is just them walking away from her boarding school with their puppy.
Right.
But in my mind I was like, well, now I want to see what they're gonna do. Like, yeah. I was like, I kind of wanted to know now what.
Yeah. I don't know, sequel time.
Well, I don't want it. I mean, I just want, like...
Still regarding Henry.
I know.
Regarding Henry again.
I just want a paragraph, like, Henry... I know this isn't a real story. Well,
P.S. about Henry. I don't know.
P.S. Henry became blah-de-blah. Like, what if he became, like, a physical therapist, too, and now is working with his best friend?
Almost wanted that to happen, I think.
But I don't know if it... They just wanted to leave it open-ended like that. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe, yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say. If we ever get JJ on the podcast, we'll ask him.
I don't know. Probably couldn't now. Maybe like...
we couldn't then either.
15 years ago. I don't know.
One other quick observation I want to make about the movie that I forgot about. This is like probably like the third or fourth movie we've had where we have that takes place in a hospital in some way. So we had Doc Hollywood, we had a scene in The Fisher King, and now we've had this. I think that's all. Every single time, it's like current day, but it's like a freaking madhouse.
In the hospitals?
Yes, like there's like patients like falling over and like being operated on in the hallways and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
without
people, like,
being in an operating room or anything. Yeah.
It's like, why is that a thing?
I mean, from watching ER, I don't know.
But ER have more structure than
I know.
that. You know, like, yeah, they're like massive things. They're like, okay, we gotta get them over here. And,
right.
You know,
and then
let's get
I
them in their
understand
designated
how
spots.
things get
But this is like...
busy certain days.
This person has a paper cut and he's sitting next to a person who has the plague and has his limbs falling off, and then over here there's someone having open heart surgery. Well, doctors are not wearing their masks. Like, that's happening all in the same room in all of these movies, basically. And it's just a weird trend I'm seeing in 1991. Hospitals. So I guess healthcare.
But I mean, we've
has gotten better
not
in terms
all of it. I don't. Well, because in Doc Hollywood, he was in DC in the beginning.
That was happening in that hospital in the beginning.
I know, but I'm just saying.
And they're not wearing masks while they're operating on a guy in Doc Hollywood.
I don't. Yeah.
And then Fisher King is
Fisher King. That's like a mental hospital, but
I guess it was, but it didn't really say it was. I don't know. But there's the mental hospital, and then there's the part where they're bringing the guy from who was laying in the middle of the road in Central Park in. Like an ER situation.
Yeah, it was like an ER emergency.
Situation. And
they're probably trying to show you that like emergency rooms are insane. Yes, I don't know.
Just super scary.
But they're
weird.
Really not, because I've been to the ER a few times, and they're not like, you know, code blue every 5 seconds.
Yeah, they're not nearly as frantic as that.
But who knows? Who knows what it was like 30 years ago?
I don't know. It just seemed weird to me. It's just a weird trend in movies at that time. So that's the movie. That's regarding Henry. In terms of awards, nothing of note that I found at all. No MTV Movie Awards this time. As you can imagine from the way we've talked about it, it doesn't seem like it should have been.
I mean, this movie
anything other than Bill Nunn
did well though, because this is the top.
We're still in the top
100?
50.
Oh, top 50.
We're in the top. We're in the top 50 box office performers still. It made $43 million. I actually did not write down what place that is. We can try to put that on the website at some point. It's listed there in the list of movies on the website if you go to 1991movierewind.com. Budget of $25 million, gross of $43 million. So, yeah, it did pretty well. I mean, it has star power behind it. It has Harrison Ford.
And Annette Bening.
And it has the prestige of Mike Nichols.
And
Abrams wasn't a name yet.
Yeah.
But, you know, that was enough to get it by. And it had a decent cast overall, too. But, yeah, it just didn't fully come together. If we want to talk about the cast real quick.
Yeah.
Just a couple of people. We got Rebecca Miller, who played Linda, the love interest of Harrison Ford's character, Henry, the one he cheated on. She did not do a whole lot of acting around this movie. She decided to move into writing and directing. She did Personal Velocity. She did Maggie's Plan and Angela. So beyond that, you may also know her as the daughter of playwright Arthur Miller, and she's married to Daniel Day-Lewis. So she's known in that way from her social life, tabloid side of things, but she's also a very well-respected writer and director. We have one of the ones that I like the most, the doctor who informs Annette Bening's character, Sarah, of Henry's condition at the beginning, the lack of oxygen to the brain, was a guy named James Rebhorn, or Rebhorn.
Okay.
But I know him, and you all may know him better as Mr. McFlemp in The Adventures of Pete and Pete, where he was the person who turned Artie into a siding salesman. In the Farewell My Viking 2-part series where Artie left the show. So he devastated all of our Artie fans. Artie, the strongest man in the world. John Leguizamo was the gunman at the very beginning who basically had like 1 or 2 lines, which was very weird to see.
Yeah, I mean, that was that's Leguizamo's, I mean, that's very early on.
It's an early role,
career.
but it's not his very first one. He was in Die Hard 2, he was in Casualties of War, and 1991 was a pretty big year for him. We'll see him in at least 3 other movies.
Okay.
So we can talk about him more then. But he also, on top of those 3 movies, and this one, he also released his first comedy special in 1991 called Mambo Mouth. So he was...
I kind of remember that, yeah.
He was well known, or becoming more well known at the time, so it was weird to see him take on such a tiny little role that had, you know... But hey, money's money. And then lastly, I want to mention the secretary of Henry was played by Elizabeth Wilson. She is a regular with Mike Nichols. She had been in The Graduate. She had also been in 9 to 5. And also, most notably, we'll see her again in a much beefier, more interesting role in The Addams Family.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, so looking forward to
That's
talking about
where
that.
I was like, I recognize this woman.
Yeah, she's a great actress, and we'll get to talk about her more then.
Well, you forgot someone else, though.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I skipped over a couple people, I'm sure. But yeah, feel free.
Their housekeeper.
Oh, yeah. She was also the housekeeper.
She was also
Clueless.
Yes. That's where I was like, oh, that's the housekeeper in Clueless.
Yeah, I didn't.
Her name is Ada Linares.
She probably played almost exclusively housekeepers, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
That'd be my guess, just the way Hollywood works. But yeah, same housekeeper from Clueless.
All right. She pretty much, it was like pretty much the same, because she's kind of funny in Regarding Henry too, in a way.
Yeah.
Even though in
She doesn't
Clueless, she's not, I mean, the only thing I remember in Clueless is she's like, I'm not a Mexican. Because, you know, Cher's like, I don't speak Mexican, quote. Right. But in Regarding Henry, she had more of a relationship with, you know,
yeah, it's like,
this family.
I like you better this way.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And then, yeah, lastly, only other thing I have to say is just going back to Mike Nichols a little bit. I talked about most of his life. I just wanted to just talk about the versatility of his career in that, and also just his life. So as a 7-year-old boy, he fled Nazi Germany to be with his father, who had already come to the U.S. With his brother. And then his mother came a year later, so he is, in essence, a Holocaust survivor for sure. Learned English, obviously, and then became a big-time comedian for a very short stint with Elaine May, with their comedy duo Nichols and May, like what I talked about. They were a Grammy Award-winning duo, incredibly influential in the in the comedy world, because they had basically been one of the first people to take improv style comedy and, you know, blow up big. They were part of a group called the Compass Players. Ed Asner was also in that group, and those Compass Players were basically the precursor to Second City as well.
Okay.
So Mike Nichols didn't actually form Second City. It was a couple other people from Compass Players, but basically that led the way to Second City. And then I also mentioned that he's one of only 15 people with the full EGOT, the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. So mostly for directing. So really fascinating life. And then I think that's about it in terms of the cast and crew side of things, honestly. I think it's time we move on to true crime and pop culture.
Okay, so not really, this could be a true crime, I suppose. But
most legal cases are crimes in some form. May not be.
So this isn't, you know, anything
violent.
This isn't anything, you know, high profile. But I is looking for something newsworthy or noteworthy that happens around the time that this movie was released, which was July 12th, 1991. Was from an article I found. It was a New York Times article. It came out in 1994, February 18th. So, you know, a couple years later. Mm-hmm. But there was a couple that sued the creators of this movie, and I'm just going to give a little bit info. I'm going to read most of this because it's kind of interesting to me, especially someone who likes to read lawsuits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a couple accused studio of stealing their story. Attorney John Cox and his wife Joan have filed a lawsuit seeking $100 million against the creators of the movie regarding Henry, saying the movie is based on a manuscript about their life. The suit says that the movie contains at least 108 similarities between the movie's main character, Henry Turner, played by Harrison Ford, and Cox, who suffered severe head injuries in a 1979 motorcycle accident. The lawsuit was filed in New York federal court. So this, I think they filed in 93. So according to the suit, Cox, who was a prominent attorney and a father of 4 children, was left incapacitated when his motorcycle was struck head-on by a car in Evansville, Indiana, on July 2nd, 1979. Cox was unconscious for more than a month. When he emerged from a coma, his left side was paralyzed, and after 19 months of extensive rehabilitation, he returned back to his law practice. So yeah, this is like a year and a half.
He did fully return.
Yeah.
Because he didn't lose the mental capacities, it sounds like.
No, he was in a coma and was paralyzed. Okay. So he wasn't shot in the head. He was just struck head on in a car accident.
Right, but he didn't have the memory loss.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So during this time, his wife, Joan, writes a manuscript about, their time together. And I didn't read the similarities, but they said there was at least 108 similarities that happened in the movie. One of them was, in the very beginning was when Annette Bening first finds him in the hospital, and he opens his eyes and he's drooling from one side.
Sure.
And another similarity was when he's learning how to walk. On the way he's walking he was leaning in on his left, I guess, like on his left foot.
Okay.
So they were just like, oh, that's how you walked when you first started. Right. And then when I first saw you were also drooling. So I didn't read all the similarity. I couldn't find the similarities, but they just said there was a ton of similarities to this movie that happened in their lives.
Some of them very loose, it sounds.
Yeah. So during this time when he was, being in his rehab process, Joan submits her manuscript to several publishers, including in New York. And then in 1988, and they didn't hear anything from this New York publisher for 12 weeks until they got like a returned little rejection letter saying, sorry, we're not interested. And that was in July of 1990. And then in 1991, this movie was released. So she thinks that somehow this publishing company, like J.J. Abrams, found it or was given to him and he took the ideas.
Sure.
That's what they're claiming. So I looked up this case online because I started to try and find, well, what happened at the end? Like, these people get their $100 million? Like, what the hell? And I couldn't find anything. So I looked this case up online. And this went on in the production company, everyone. Mm-hmm. They filed a motion for summary judgment, which... you can Google it. I don't really want to. Sure. They did a partial motion for summary judgment and then a motion to dismiss. The judge granted that, so that automatically closed this case. There was no trial date or anything. The plaintiffs, this family, Joan and John Cox, filed an appeal, and this was in June of 97. And basically, like a month or two later, the judge denied their appeal. So it just seemed as if these people didn't get anything.
Yeah, not even a settlement.
Yeah, they didn't get any money.
Purely dismissed out.
Yeah, it was dismissed out. They appealed, dismissed again. So nothing happened. These people didn't get anything. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at least the guy has his legal career still. So, they weren't reliant on that.
Right.
If they were wronged, they weren't, counting on that money to survive, at least.
Yeah.
But, yeah, really interesting that they...
I didn't know that was happening, but... So moving on, pop culture-wise, a few days after this movie was released, so on July 18th, 1991, Perry Farrell launched the first Lollapalooza tour. And some of the acts include Susie and the Banshees, Nine Inch Nails, Rollins Band, Fishbone, and Rage Against the Machine.
It was back when it was a tour as well.
Yeah,
now it's all
in Chicago. Well, now I don't know about now.
Yeah,
like as of 2021 now.
In the future,
but in the past 10 to 12 years, it's been here in Chicago. But they also do Lollapalooza, Brazil, and they do one in Europe, I think.
Okay.
But I think Chicago is the only U.S.
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
Location now. Yeah. But yeah, they used to tour. Because I went to the one in 95, and it was at the World. That's when it was called, the one in Tinley Park. It was called the World Music Venue.
I don't think I had been to one before I met you.
So moving on. Okay. Now I'm getting to the part where, the top songs are going to be repetitive. So the top U.S. song was Paula Abdul's Rush Rush.
Okay.
And then the top UK song was Bryan Adams' Everything I Do It For You.
We're going to hear that name a lot.
Yeah, we're going to... I mean, this is, summertime, so I think this is right when, Robin Hood came out, and that movie and song became huge.
Yes.
So that's going to be on the charts for 6 months. I don't know.
The better music of the 90s didn't come until a little bit later in the year.
Right.
Later
well,
in the
I don't
decade.
know. It's a fine song.
Yeah.
All right. Another time. Moving on to TGIF again. It's always the 4.
Mm-hmm.
Or the first 3 are always Full House, Family Matters, Perfect Strangers.
Mm-hmm.
This time, on July 12th, 1991, the 4th one was another busted pilot, and it was called Miss Jones.
Miss Jones.
Do you want to guess what Miss Jones is about? Do you want to guess who's in it? I don't know.
No.
Okay.
I feel like I should remember it, but I don't.
I think it only lasted this one episode, so I don't know.
Okay, but it still sounds familiar enough to me that I feel like I should picture it in my head, but I don't. Anyway.
Okay, so this is a series pilot about a single mother who tries to juggle her family and her career as a lawyer representing professional athletes.
Okay.
And
that does not sound familiar.
No. It stars Christine Ebersole. Do you know who she is? She was on SNL in the 80s. She's blonde haired. I think if we Google her, I don't know, you'll see. I'll show you a picture of her, and we'll probably just put it on the website, maybe.
Yeah, probably, if we remember.
So she's Miss Jones.
Okay.
And the only other person that I recognize on here that was in the cast was Ernie Hudson.
Huh.
So it was her and Ernie Hudson. That is all I have TV and music wise. But I do have corrections. I think we're going to...
Okay.
We might do this more because...
Only if we make mistakes.
Yeah. If we just start talking and we don't remember things, I'm going to fact check, I guess, and do these corrections. So last week we talked about Double Impact. And then I think we were also trying to figure out what language they were speaking in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And we didn't know if it was Cantonese or Mandarin. I'm just confirming that in Hong Kong, 96% of the people that live there speak Cantonese over Mandarin.
Okay.
Also about the Corsican Brothers book by Alexander Dumas. I think you asked me, was this anything with like revenge? And I said no. But I'm just going to go into it a little more, I guess.
Sure.
So, you know, it's about the two brothers separated at birth by a doctor with a scalpel. They're separated, and the brothers' names are Louis and Lucien or Lucian.
Uh-oh, I sense another correction.
I don't know. So I'm thinking Lucian, but I don't know. Louis and Lucian. They growing up or throughout their lives, they can feel and sense each other's emotions through time. And then Lucian explains that he has a mission to undertake, and he asks his brother to mediate a vendetta between two families. And that's what this book is about.
So kind of.
Yeah, kind of. But it's not like a revenge against, their parents' death or anything like that. The other thing that I got wrong was the Little Rosie cartoon.
Uh-huh.
I said it was Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes.
It's Roseanne Barr.
Oh, okay. That's much different.
Yeah. Like, I think in my mind, I was thinking of Rosie.
I thought it was Rosie O'Donnell too, though.
I think, did she have a cartoon? Because now I'm thinking, at the beginning credits of her talk show, it was like a cartoon, the opening credits.
That's true.
That's what I'm thinking of. That's what I was thinking, I guess, when I was reading about Little Rosie.
Okay.
Anyways, it's Roseanne Barr, and, Tom Arnold also voiced in it.
Of course.
But it's a cartoon based loosely on Roseanne Barr's childhood, and it's an animated series that was aired on ABC during the Saturday morning lineup. The series revolved a young 8-year-old Rosie, her sister Tess, and best friend Buddy. Tom Arnold was the voice of Buddy. The three would use their imaginations to overcome obstacles they face, such as spelling bees, family vacations, and rules that their parents forced upon them. That's what Rosie...
And being mistaken for Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah.
That's also an episode.
Yeah, so that's that.
Okay. So moving on to rankings and ratings. On your 1 to 5 star scale, where would you put Regarding Henry?
I would give this movie a 3.
A movie you've seen 1,000,000 times.
I've seen it so many times, but now that I've seen it, I haven't seen it, I don't know, I can't remember the last time I saw it. Maybe 20s, I don't know. I honestly can't remember, maybe late teens, early 20s. But this time when we were watching it together and I was trying to make sense of it, just a lot of things I still have questions on. So plot-wise.
Yeah.
Acting-wise, I love everyone. Yeah. I love all the acting.
Yeah, again, I'm honestly not too thrilled with Annette Bening's performance in it, but sort of like Bugsy, I feel like she had more to do, but I just felt like her delivery wasn't there on this one. I don't know. Anyway, maybe Guilty by Suspicion will be better for me for her, because I like her overall. For me, 0 to 4 star scale, I'm going to say it's a 2, just because the performances otherwise would be a 1.5. So middle of the road, very middle of the road. Every movie is worth watching once. Would you watch Regarding Henry yet again, in your case?
Yeah, I would watch this again.
Okay.
Would you?
No.
No.
I'm good.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know. This movie's like a Ritz cracker, we'll say, right?
I like Ritz crackers.
They're fine.
Okay.
But there's better crackers out there.
All right.
I'd rather have other crackers. So. But if you want to watch Regarding Henry, as of this recording in March 2021, it's available on Prime, Fubo TV, Epix, digital rental, VHS, DVD. As always, check your local listings. As for us, you can listen to us on all of the major podcasting platforms. Please rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends. You can email us at 1991movierewind@gmail.com. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd. Just search 1991 Movie Rewind or go to 1991movierewind.com, for the full list of movies along with show notes and more. Next week, we'll be talking about Other People's Money, which is available on Cinemax, digital rental, VHS, and DVD. We'll see you then.
Thanks.